No, your eyes are not deceiving you. You are looking at a video that contains Kung Fu, and yet the video title says that it's about starting a business in Mexico. I attempted to start a Kung Fu school in Pachuca, Hidalgo, but it would not be accurate to say that it worked. I have started many businesses in Mexico and have made many mistakes. This video will seek to stimulate the mind of the viewer so that you can gain a more intelligent idea about what businesses work and how Mexicans think. When I say starting a business, I'm not talking about completing the bureaucracy with the government. Rather, I'm talking about understanding the Mexican psyche, enabling you to create a business that has demand. Creating a business in a country that is not your own is very difficult. I would suggest that you need two fundamental qualities to start a business. First, you need scarcity of product. What I mean is that you need to have a product that no one else can easily sell. Another way of putting it is that you need your own niche where there are few other competitors. Mexico is full of handbags and shoes for women to buy. It probably also has enough tequila-making companies. Finding a product that can fill a hole in the marketplace can be quite a difficult challenge. The second quality that you need to start a business in Mexico is an understanding of Mexican emotions. It is a sense of need that sells a product. If people don't feel a need, they are not going to buy what you are selling. The thing is that each culture feels that they have different needs. So to be a good business person in Mexico, you need to be able to feel Mexican feelings and understand the underlying forces that drive them. When I started my Kung Fu school, I thought and acted like a Westerner. I focused on two important issues. First, I had my scarce product, Kung Fu. Indeed, evidence suggests that my Kung Fu classes are the best in Pachuca. I focus heavily on technical detail. I have about 160 arm locks, 100 pressure points. I teach praying mantis and a form of Wugalun, the Kung Fu of war. Other teachers have been to my class and have felt the power of my Kung Fu. Second, after formulating my scarce product, I went into heavy advertising. I delivered about 6,000 leaflets door to door and promoted the classes with public demonstrations. But it all came to nothing. Why? I will now explain why my classes do not attract significant numbers of people by showing how my product failed to relate to Mexican society. First, I argue that Mexico and much of Latin America is a narcissistic society. You would think that Mexico is a dangerous place, and so people would want to learn how to defend themselves. But this does not account for one important point. Narcissists suffer from grandiosity. Mexican men believe that they are God's gift to humanity. They are super handsome and mega strong and don't need any instruction in regards to how to defend themselves. One other subtler part of narcissism is that Mexicans tend not to focus on details. Therefore, offering so much technical information just looks like work to many Mexicans. Incidentally, you are looking at my best student in this video, and he came 4th out of 400 in his university entrance exams. He loves technical detail and uses it effectively, obviously, on me. The next point is that Mexicans tend to be more interested in the image of a product and not the quality of a product. I had a guy who came to my class who was a brown belt, apparently, in another martial art, although he could only do one kind of kick, and that on one foot. He has many photos of himself in martial arty positions in his Facebook account, but in reality is more interested in the image of being a martial artist rather than having command of the subject. It takes time for foreigners to understand how much image influences the people. Since Mexican men are prone to grandiosity and focus on their manliness, if they do practice some kind of martial art, their preference is to club each other to death like cavemen with little technique. They substitute skill for steroids and time lifting weights. Other people find this brutality repulsive, so they focus on the stylistic aspect of Kung Fu and have lost the real reason why Kung Fu exists. The result is that there was no niche for me. I was offering a middle road of techniques that can be dangerous but not brutal. Apart from narcissism, another important factor is that Mexicans work for long hours. The result is that after a hard day's work, only a few people have the desire to partake in physical exercise. If there's an option, they would prefer to go to a party, a family gathering, or go to the cinema. Now that I have shown you why my business was not profitable, I will focus on the Mexican psyche and make suggestions in regards to what makes Mexicans tick. I'm just going to throw out a list of factors that should be considered in regards to starting a business in Mexico. First, Mexico is a narcissistic society. Narcissism at its core is rooted in insecurity. People want to feel important and that they have value. Therefore, any product that satisfies or promises to satisfy this craving will be profitable. However, on that point, the Mexicans that I know are not blingy, that is, like these guys from Belize. They don't walk around wearing loads of gold. Those with money tend to have subtler ways of showing their value. On the other side of the coin, the poor increase their value by buying cheap copies of expensive products. Image is an extension of narcissism. Mexicans are obsessed with their image, so anything that makes them or their property look more important is a sell. The third and possibly most important aspect of Mexican culture is the focus on relationships. Mexicans live for relationships. Most Mexicans have large extended families and spend a significant amount of time visiting family members, eating and partying and going out together. I have always said that a Mexican will spend 20,000 pesos on a laptop just so that they can use Messenger. This has now evolved into buying a smartphone to accomplish the same task. Any product that enhances Mexicans' relationships with each other will be profitable. Any product connected to parties, get-togethers, or keeping in touch, enhancing friendships or increasing the friendship circle. These are things that Mexicans look for. Mexico is a hot country, so any product that protects the body from heat or quenches thirst sells well. Frankie's Ice Cream is a very popular establishment in my area and has about 8 parlours in the city. He got the right balance between the quality of the ice cream at a good price. Any intelligent products connected to security should be popular. Mexicans live in a state of insecurity. Women especially would appreciate anything that would make them feel safer on the streets. Parents would feel better if they had an added level of protection in regards to the well-being of their children. Mexicans are also obsessed with health. The minute they get the sniffles, they run off to the doctor for an injection, even though they have no idea what they are being injected with. Unknown to them, they are probably getting just an injection of vitamins. Any medication or instruments that increase their ability to detect illness or cure illness at a reasonable price will sell. Mexicans love animals, especially dogs. The country is overrun with dogs, but products for animals are in demand, also the appropriate medication. We have to consider Mexico's future. For the last 6 years or so, there has been a lot of talk about a rising middle class in Mexico, and there is truth to this, but I'm not sure if this middle class is sustainable. Mexicans are still struggling with the concept of rule of law, and corruption has increased over recent years. Another factor in this is President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He was voted in because of the excessive corruption of the pre-party. From my perspective, he is moving 2.5 steps forward and then 2 steps back. Every advancement is hard to obtain, and Mr. Obrador does not always seem to have a grasp of the solutions to the nation's problems. Latin American countries have this tendency to advance for a while, but if they do not fix the issue of rule of law, then there is a tendency to have a sudden decline. Venezuela is a perfect example of this, but also Argentina has its history. Bearing these things in mind, when starting a business in Mexico, you have to decide whether to promote your product to the rich elite who have no indication of going away, or an unstable and unpredictable middle class that is prone to sudden shocks. I also explored the issue of importing and exporting goods in Mexico. Mexico's market struggles with a lack of products. Of course, if you are in, for example, Mexico City, there are plenty of places where you can buy things. But in Pachuca, only 50 kilometers away, there are significantly less products. The result is that the importation of goods into Mexico can be profitable. But this involves bureaucracy, especially across the US-Mexican border. I know friends who buy things from China and sell them on the Mexican version of eBay. One idea that I had was to transport goods from a major city into a smaller satellite area and sell them possibly to shops at a higher price. The advantage of this is that you don't suffer the bureaucracy of crossing an international border. Finally, one other factor that is important in Mexico is that Mexicans struggle to trust or believe other people. That means that the best form of advertising is not by paying for adverts or delivering leaflets. Mexicans primarily transmit information by word of mouth. A product gains trust because a friend plugged it to another friend and testified that the product was for real.